Hello and welcome to our session today, and thanks for joining us today. This is Scott Keatinge on our side, on the Raynet side of things. He's a senior consultant at Raynet, and he will demo our RayVentory tool for discovery and inventory today. And my name is Gabrielle. I'm a senior account manager at Raynet, and I will be in the background and I will be handling the questions that come in from your side, and we hope that there will be many. So welcome to the session, and we say good morning and good afternoon because we have a couple of time zones regarding the participants in this session. So yes, let's get started. So RayVentory is our subject today. We released the version 11.3 of RayVentory on 31st of July. And Scott is all ready to show you the feature highlights of the new version of RayVentory and to give you a product overview on it. He will give you a live demo on it, and he will then even speak about RayVentory Next Generation and RayPorter, which is the reporting engine that we will be bringing into our portfolio soon. We will then have a Q&A session. And from an organizational point of view, everybody's muted at the moment. And this is to avoid, obviously, background noises. And when you have a question or a comment, even during the presentation that Scott is doing, you can let me know by the chat panel or in the chat panel or question panel, and we will try and fit the questions in while Scott is doing the presentation. This session is being recorded, and the recording will also be available on our website after a couple of days. So, yes. Let's start on the feature highlights and the product overview. So I can give over to Scott now. Thank you, Scott, for showing us.
Yeah, thank you very much, Gabrielle. Good morning, good afternoon, everybody. So we're just going to briefly go over the actual feature highlights and the product overview for the RayVentory server and the RayVentory portal products. And then afterwards, we'll go into a live demo showing you the new features that are being released with the recent release of the RayVentory Portal 11.3, as Gabby mentioned. Okay, so feature highlights of the RayVentory. So RayVentory can gather hardware and software inventory data. It can use agent and agentless inventory methods. It has scanning methods controlled from either a single instance of the portal or server, which provides you with central management, or it can be done via a portable version from a USB or a network drive in an unmanaged state. We support Microsoft and Ulm devices. At the moment, we have an Aspera SmartTrack connector, and we're currently working on a ServiceNow connector. So both connectors can export data from RayVentory and import it into their SAM databases in order for them to actually use that discovery and inventory data within their CMDB environment. We provide client and server OS scanning, VCenter and HyperV inventory scanning. This gives you the advantage of seeing the guest to host mapping relationships, as well as we can do network device inventory scanning as well. The portfolio assessment and risk and vulnerability analysis feature set that we can do with our products is taken care of via RayVentory Advanced in conjunction with the data gathered via RayVentory itself. So RayVentory has the ability to discover and inventory devices via a multitude of methods. So if we speak about the portal only, it can do discover via Active Directory, a lightweight network scan, a CSV support actions via VCenter inventory and HyperV. We just concentrate on the portal. We provide ZeroTouch, which is the least invasive method we have for inventory, as well as remote execution methods. So the scanning methodology in a bit more detail. So agent-based, so this requires the RayVentory server itself. And two other plus points that you can get when you use the agent is you can actually start gathering application usage data and utilize device vulnerability analysis. ZeroTouch, when this is run, the inventory files are created directly on the system which is running the portal. Portable inventory methods, these can either be the inventory binaries only or a MSI administrative install of the entire portal, either on a USB stick or on a network share, etc. And remote execution inventory method. Via this method, the actual inventory files are created directly on the target device first and then uploaded to the portal. So this is just an overview of the RayVentory portal main screen. So via the About section, license and troubleshooting information. The settings allows you to configure the various inventory methods as well as enable certain other options related to discovery and inventory. Tasks allows you to schedule discovery, inventory, and upload actions. The cockpit, which is the large central tile that you see, this displays the current count of devices and services, and then allows you to drill down into detailed status charts and device views by pressing that tile. Discovery allows you to perform various discovery actions, so either discover new devices or discover services like SNMP or VCenter on existing devices. Inventory tile allows you to perform various inventory actions, and the recent list shows the last viewed device inventory data. Architecture for RayVentory. So if we look at the top left-hand corner, that is where it shows you how the actual RayVentory server would be set up. So you'd actually have the RayVentory server, which utilizes a Microsoft SQL backend, uses Microsoft IIS. You could also have a distribution server in the main environment, which is local to the RayVentory server, as well as the RayVentory portal in that environment as well, if you actually want to use that for discovery and inventory. For remote locations, you could have a distribution server or a RayVentory portal instance. For those, for your DMZ, you could have a full distribution server or a light version of the distribution server, which is basically a data collection point, as well as an instance of the RayVentory portal if you wish to discover an inventory devices that reside within the DMZ. So for devices on the internet would go through an actual distribution server for uploads. So this is just shows you some best practices that can be discussed during an implementation. So best practice 1 just shows you a base implementation. 2 provides the ability that, of utilizing a least privilege approach if administrative accounts are not available. So for ZeroTouch, we actually have a script which could be run against all target systems, which would create and configure a specific user, which would allow ZeroTouch entry to those target systems. Best practice 3 allows you to schedule your discovery, inventory, and upload actions, and you can also utilize PowerShell commandlets to do these actions as well. Best practice 4 is the actual server and client architecture, as well as unmanaged methods of inventory. Best practice 5 brings in all of the gathered information and utilizes SSRS reporting to show you detailed reports. So before we go to the live demo, has anybody got any questions so far concerning the actual products for RayVentory and RayVentory Portal? I believe those that are already on the call already know at least the basics of these products.
We have received no questions so far, but please feel free to let us know about questions that you have.
Okay. So this is the RayVentory Portal. So we're just going to show you the main new features that have been added into the 11.3 product. So the first one I'm going to do is we now added the ability to utilize an actual text file containing IP addresses or IP address ranges in order to perform a network scan. So you just have to create a text file in this format. And then you can just do a discovery. Select the network scan option, browse to the file. And during this one, I'm going to say, let me know if I've got any SNMP enabled devices during the scan. I could also say, if you find any, perform an SNMP inventory as well. We can do that as well. So as you can see, it's going through a ping sweep against my first address range. It will first list the devices it finds within that range during the ping sweep. And now it's targeting my second address range. Now it's going to try and resolve IP addresses to host names via DNS. And now it's probing for port 161 to see if SNMP is there. And now it's found 2 SNMP devices, so it's going to try and perform an SNMP inventory if those devices accept versions 1, 2, or 3, and if they've been configured correctly in my credentials. So for inventory scanning, you actually have to have a specific credential for the type of scan you use. So for SNMP, we support all 3 versions of SNMP. Version 3 allows you to either have reportable, which is just requires a community string, or it can have authentication, or it can have encryption, or it can have authentication and encryption. All depends on how your V3 devices have been configured. Okay, so I press finish now. So now I've got some more devices. I click in the actual cockpit. It drills down to the overview, so you have some summary charts of your actual inventory status. So this shows you the status of the last inventory scan. So this is for operating systems, the first one for the devices, and then services shows you the actual services, so vSphere, SNMP, and Oracle. Unfortunately, I can't show you this. Another new feature is the ability to import users and groups from Active Directory. So I can do a domain browse. That's why I'm on the network. This is not. It says Raynet core, but it's not. Okay, I might lose connection in a minute. I should be back. Get me on. Okay, can you still see my screen? Yes, okay. Let's try that again. Okay, so now we're back on the network. Okay. We'll do this and then we can move back into the vCenter. So you could start at the root domain, or you can actually select an actual OU or a group within actual OU if you wanted to. What I've done is I've also created some attribute lists. So and this one is for users, so I'm interested in these attributes. So the import will also bring in the attribute values for this against user objects. I've created attribute lists for groups as well. Okay, that one succeeded. So as you can see, I've got my users and some groups, shows you the members of, and my attributes. Now, when you do an upload from the RayVentory portal to the RayVentory server, a inventory file will be dynamically created containing all of this information, so that it can then be imported into the RayVentory database, so that it can be utilized via the RayVentory reports, as well as exported from an external SAM tool if you wanted it into your CMDB. So if we go back to vSphere now, these should work now that the network connection seems. Okay. So it's going to first interrogate the vCenter, and then when it first connects to the vCenter, it will find out how many hosts the vCenter manages, and then it will interrogate each host to find out which guests reside on the hosts, and bring that information into an inventory file, and then via the portal's inventory viewer, we can see the actual guest to host mappings. And once the inventory data is imported into RayVentory server, you can see similar information by running an SRS report as well. It's taking a bit longer from this location than it did from my actual desk. So while we're waiting for this to complete, does anybody have any questions? If you do, then type them into the question, into the chat, or press the raise your hand function.
No, nothing's coming so far. I guess your presentation leaves no question open.
Or they all left after the first technical difficulty. This was far faster from what. Okay, so it's finished the vCenter. It's now interrogating my local VMware workstation environment, which it probably won't get any information from today because it's not running. Yeah, okay, so it failed to get my VMware workstation environment because my VMware workstation is currently not running, but it has done the vCenter inventory. If we look at the device count, it's automatically gone up to 238. So if we refresh this, And now we can actually see discovery source was VMware Inventory Server. If we go to the vCenter, if I do show full details, so it opens the inventory viewer, I select a host, so I've got 4 hosts, and the virtual machines tab shows you the actual guests that are on that host and if they're running or off. Okay, something else that's been added is a HyperV View now, which is there to provide similar host-to-guest mapping capability like the vCenter. However, it is populated in a different manner. So for this, we have to go for an inventory method, choose the HyperV. Now, what this will do is it will go through your existing connections lists and interrogate the inventory files that it's got. And if it finds HyperV information within those inventory files, then it will just use that to populate the view. And if there's no inventory files, then it will try and perform an OS scan against all of these. Now, as the majority of these hosts are not accessible via name resolution, we will not allow it to go through the complete list. So I'll just tell it to target my actual HyperV server directly. And as it's already inventory, it'll be quite quick, so it just went into the actual inventory file itself. So now we actually have my HyperV server. And if I actually access the inventory viewer, as you can see, it shows you the OS inventory because that's what all HyperV inventory scan is, an operating system inventory, but it also adds your virtual machine tab, which is similar to the one that comes with vSphere.
Can I just interrupt you, Scott, because I might have overseen a question that came in regarding the vCenter. So which type of user do we use for the vCenter? Is it a local user on the vCenter or an AD user?
It all depends on how your vCenter is configured. So I'm using Windows Authentication. So when I run it, it uses my logged in domain account. However, you could specify a domain account here as well, or if it's configured with a local user that comes like root, which comes directly with vSphere default installation, then you could just put that in there instead. Same goes for the VMware workstation.
Okay.
Okay, something else that has been added is on the inventory side of life for ZeroTouch, and it's on for Linux. You now have the capability of performing a file inventory scan against a Linux machine using the ZeroTouch method. And these setting options allow you to actually configure what you actually want it to do instead of actually playing around with the command line itself. Speaking about command lines, if we go into remote execution, we now have all of the command line options available that are available to NDTrack if you use remote execution. So you can actually fill these in via the actual UI instead of actually compiling your own command line if you wanted to actually restrict the inventory scan. And finally, the only other two options that are easily seen as new features within 11.3 compared to previous versions of the RayVentory portal are the do not scan target ports to determine applicable inventory methods. So basically, as you saw when the vCenter inventory scan was told to populate the devices, those devices had an unknown OS type. So basically, if you wanted to target them with an inventory, you could uncheck this option, and as long as those guests were accessible via name resolution, then the portal will be able to determine if either port 135 or port 22 were open against those guests in order to determine if they're Windows or a Linux Unix device. And you can also tell the inventory not to check if the portal's own HTTP services is available before it runs inventory as well. So this is more in regards to remote execution. So when a remote execution scan is run, the portal will connect to the target machine. It will then copy over a process service, which will be loaded. That process will do a network connection back to the portal or to wherever you have specified the network share containing the inventory binaries. It will run the actual inventory scan, create the inventory file locally on the target system, and then come upload time, by default, it will try and upload to the portal's web service. And failing to do that, and if you've configured the portal with the relevant option, no, it was not. If I had a UNC path here, then if it couldn't upload to the portal's web service, then it would do a network copy to a UNC share. Okay, and that is all main new features within the 11.3 portal. So that's the end of the live demo. Before we move further, does anybody else have any questions?
Yes, there was a question. It's regarding the virtual machines. Can you show the inventory of software for a specific virtual machine running on a host? So this obviously came in a couple of minutes ago.
Yes, so basically the VCenter scan performs an inventory of the actual hosts related to the VCenter. And as you can see, it will bring in, it can create devices in regards to the guests that is found on each host. And then once you've actually performed an OS level scan against one of those devices, then again, so if you look at mine, this is from my actual laptop. It's had an OS inventory run on it, so you can see basic information on the right hand, in the details on the right hand side, and you can see, open the inventory viewer and software. It shows you what software is installed. Same for hardware. It doesn't show you everything. The inventory view doesn't show you everything. It just shows you some main points, services, if they're stopped or running. And then the raw data tab is basically UI access to the actual inventory file itself, which allows you to then drill down into all information that is found in that file. So the NGS identity, so this is in relation to the portal's tagging function. So if you're a managed service provider, or if you are a customer that has a large environment and they've got an instance of the portal in various locations, then configuring the tagging feature will allow you to easily identify where each inventory file came from within your environment. So the RVP server time and version are the three default properties for the tagging. So it tells you the machine name that the instance of the portal is running on, the date and time that it ran, and the actual version of the portal. But contact, location, and organization are custom fields that you can configure. You don't have to put information related to those names in. You could put any information in those fields that you like, which will allow you to easily identify that portal within your environment. And to do that, you simply go to settings and tagging. And while we're at settings, the final new implementation in 11.3 is parallelism. So this allows you to improve performance of the portal. So it allows you to target, say, okay, I want these default options. So by default, it will inventory 32 devices at one time for OS inventory. It will inventory one host at a time for vSphere inventory. If we go into ZeroTouch and vSphere, we have an additional parallelism concerning the actual vCenters. And by default, it will target 4 hosts within a vCenter. So that's what, yeah, so this main one is how many vCenters. So it'll target 1 vCenter, the main parallelism at a time. And then by default, it will target 4 hosts within that vCenter. So if you've got a large amount of vCenters, or if you've got a single vCenter with a large amount of hosts, then these options will allow you to improve the performance of inventory gathering with the portal. Does anybody else have any other questions?
Not at the moment, it seems.
Okay, so back to my PowerPoint. Okay, so next we're going to speak about what's our future roadmap. So we can show you what we intend to put into the product, but at this time we can't tell you when. So basically we're looking at adding multi-tenancy to RayVentory. So this will be actually on the server side of life, adding the ability to discover an inventory cloud platforms. We're probably going to be starting off with Azure and AWS at first, but we'll be looking at moving on to other cloud platforms afterwards. Adding history tables within the database. So at the moment, we've got a desired state database, so every new incoming data will overwrite existing data. So the next version, a future version of RayVentory will have history tables. We're going to add support for industrial specific hardware and software data outside of our standard inventory. We're going to have new reporting functionality via our RayPorter product, which we'll discuss in a moment. Add the ability for add a new component called the software catalog, which will provide software recognition and rationalization capabilities, as well as vulnerability and risk analysis via CVE data. Looking at adding rule-based inventory. So you can configure an inventory scan to say, okay, well, if you find this and this and this information on a specific system, then instead of sending me all of that information within your inventory file, just say that you found device blah instead. And the RayVentory server will have a similar look and feel to the current RayVentory portal. Moving on to RayPorter. So RayPorter is going to be our intelligence-based reporting component. Basically, this will allow you to import data from external data sources. By default, it will, out of the box, it will have the ability to do it against all of our database applications. But you'll also be able to configure it to target any third-party database application as well. Then it uses rule-based data manipulation. So it performs the extract, transform, and load actions against the data it's imported in order to then utilize the resulting information to be displayed within rendered, well, to be rendered within actual dashboards. So the benefits of the RayPorter, so you're going to get data at a glance via intelligent dashboards and reports. Rule-based data manipulation is a great time saver. It will limit the data shown by automatically filtering entire dashboard elements based upon a single element value selection. The previously imported external data will be saved to provide historical information. And it's going to provide one central reporting portal for all of your database applications. And it can obviously be accessed securely from anywhere on any device. And this is just a glimpse of what it currently looks like. So this is a prototype view of the dashboards. So if you selected, if you look at the top center dashboard showing percentages, so if you clicked within the actual missing data element selection, then the entire all dashboard elements would then change to show you information based off of that filtered selection. And as we are promoting, so has anybody got any questions?
No, nothing has come in.
And as a final note from me, our latest campaign is Yes, We Scan. So we are more than happy to allow you to download and install the RayVentory portal in your environment so that you can discover and inventory your environment, which will then, or part of your environment, and then you could send us the resulting data files for processing into a clean database so that we could then provide you a detailed report output from the RayVentory server itself. So if you're interested in a quick RayVentory portal POC.
So, yes, thank you very much, Scott. And there was one further question coming in. Parallel scanning is a new feature in this new version, right?
The parallelism, yes.
Yes, and we also had something, a nice remark coming in. Happy 20th years. Yes, we're having our 20th anniversary as Raynet this year. So thank you very much for sending that. That's nice. So now back to your parallel scanning.
Yeah, the parallelism was introduced because beforehand, especially on the VCenter scan, if you said do a VCenter scan, then it would target, I mean, if you just targeted one VCenter with the scan, it would target all hosts at the same time. Now, for customers that have a large number of hosts, this could cause the portal to not be able to gather or connect to all hosts during that action, as it has been known to time out against certain hosts. Which is why we added parallelism for vCenter, but as well as adding it, we've actually added it for all inventory type methods. As you can see, so for OS, Oracle, normal Oracle inventory, Oracle audits, SNMP, HyperV. So what this allows you to do is tell the portal, okay, well, I don't want you to do everything at once. You should just only do a certain amount of targets at one time and then move on to the next batch.
Right, yes, we had another question coming in and I do not know whether we can give a concrete answer yet. When will RayPorter be available?
I couldn't say. Sorry, we've got no time frames at the moment. However, I'm sure we'd be more than happy to have a private call with you with our product management under NDA to discuss internal timelines.
Yes. Okay, so we will get back to this question. Okay, so we still have 17 minutes left, so there is still time to ask other questions, so please feel free. And okay, here is another question. I could not get the point why you need to import user data from AD.
Okay, so basically, Raynet is a customer-driven software manufacturer. So the majority of our new features and functionality are included into products based on customer request. So a number of our customers wanted this information so that they can have it imported into the RayVentory server, and then their ITSM tool can then export it from RayVentory and put it into their central CMDB.
Yeah, so do we relate it with devices?
It will, well, it creates a inventory file. So when it is imported, it will be seen as a device, but it will just be a device that only has the user and group information and nothing else.
Okay, we got a thanks back for that.
If you're interested in looking at anything else within the portal, I'll be more than happy to show you things.
Okay, so do we have a plan for other virtualization platforms like Oracle, VM? I think you have that within your presentation. That is Citrix. This is on our roadmap, but at the moment, we would not be able to say which one is first and when these steps will be taken. Am I right?
Yeah, we're still currently working on some functionality to be added to the HyperV feature, because we also want to be able to have the HyperV inventory to create devices as well. So once that is working, then we may, depending on the roadmap planning, we may then start looking at adding other VDI environments straight away or sometime down the road. But yes, I do know that a number of customers have asked for other virtual environments to be included.
Yes, so thank you for showing us the highlights of RayVentory 11.3 and to give us the product overview, Scott. And yes, everybody who's been watching Raynet and the development of RayVentory, I think everybody can confirm that it is under fast development. And this is, as Scott mentioned, because we get a lot of requests in from our customers, and then we realize it's one step after the other. So here's a further question: when will RayVentory be able to gen SLES for power or Red Hat for? Is that a typo? Or Red Hat for power on IBM power machines?
Ooh. I don't know. I do know that we can inventory SUSE Linux. However, if you believe that we can't inventory SUSE Linux when it's running on that type of machine, then yeah, do let us know. Do provide evidence of this as well, because I don't think we've got one of those machines. But yeah, I do know that we do gather inventory from SLES and Red Hat.
Yes, I would have thought.
I wouldn't have thought it was a hardware architecture would prevent us from doing it. It's just probably a case of, do we get hardware information from those machines? Yeah. So as Linux is created by many different people and companies and do not adhere to industry standards across the board, even with the same Linux flavor, different versions of it we have found. The developers decided to put information in different locations. So we're constantly finding out from customers that, okay, we've got this information from this version, but we don't get the same information from different versions. And when we investigate, it's because the developer of that release decided to move that information into different areas within the actual OS itself. So it's not as easy. Linux isn't as easy to inventory as a Windows device is.
Okay. Right, last chance for more questions. Otherwise, is there any addition from your side at the moment, Scott?
No.
No. Okay, so
just quickly go over.
I guess we'll wrap it up for today. And should there be any more questions on your side, you can always contact us. Anyway, so thank you so much for your interest today and for participating in this session. And we hope that we will speak to you again very soon about RayVentory and the next generation. So this session was recorded and will be released on our website in a couple of days, I should think. The presentation we held today, the PowerPoint, will be sent to you, will be provided to you. And I guess we will also include a use case, like a reference story that we have on RayVentory, which is also on our website, but well, one of the biggest server farms in the world, a Silicon Valley company, has been using our RayVentory to inventory their server estate. So it's a nice story. It's a nice reference story to have a look at. So yes, thanks from Scott and from myself for joining us today. And thank you, Scott, also for this great demo. And speak to you again soon. Thank you very much.